big part of sales is actually listening. I want to listen, I want to understand the pain my customer is experiencing, and then I want to put things in place that can help them.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Marielle Voxup. Welcome to Entrepreneurship 101. Mark Elliott was the speaker in our Hot Tips video that was part of last year's Best Practices series. Mark is a co-founder of Venture Accelerator Partners. Venture Accelerator Partners is a company that provides part-time sales and marketing assistance to growing firms. Mark has over 15 years of sales and marketing and management experience, and VA Partners has worked with over 60 companies in the last 6 years. Some of their successes include closing multiple customers to create a $600,000 annual annuity stream for a finance company, as well as working with a clean tech firm to close $4 million in opportunities and leveraging social media for an account that led to over $100,000 in sales. Please help me welcome Mark.
Thank you. I'm glad everyone enjoyed those really hot tips as well. I'll touch on a few of those things as we go through, elaborate a little bit more on them. Just so I get a feel for the crowd, how many people here have an idea for a business but haven't yet launched it? I see here's some hands, yeah? How many people here have launched a business recently and in kind of the startup phase? And are there people here that work for really big companies that are just looking for some really excellent B2B sales experience here as well? No? And how many people here love sales? A few people, yes. How many people here don't know what to think about sales? Yeah, a few people. I can tell you in a growing firm, everybody is in sales because everybody needs to be an ambassador for the brand. Everybody needs to be out doing little things in networking sessions, on the streetcar home, in the Tim Hortons line that can help your organization. So we'll go through and take a look at some of the things that I'd like to cover today. So go through value proposition, targets, some process tools that'll make it a lot easier for your sales experience. We'll take a look at the CRM, which is Customer Relationship Management. That's what it stands for. We'll talk about everyone's favorite sales tactic, cold calls. Yes. We'll talk about leveraging social media. I heard it's quite hip now. Yes. You can notice that's my Twitter handle here, Marky Elliott. The hashtag for tonight is Entrepreneur 101, so feel free to do some tweeting. And Mars, of course, is Mars DD. We'll talk about some other sales tactics. We'll talk about meeting plans, some other great resources that are free, and of course, there'll be some time at the end for questions. So, talk a little bit more about me. So in terms of, my company provides part-time sales and marketing. We work with a lot of growing firms, technology and industrial mostly. And I think the fundamentals are the same almost no matter what your organization is. So hopefully you'll get a lot out of the night tonight. If not, the price was right? So has anyone here ever been skating on the Ottawa Canal? Yes. For everyone that hasn't, it's a really cool, maybe cold experience. But one of the best things if you're out skating on the canal is there are these beaver tail locations on the canal. What a great value proposition. You're out skating in the cold. Here you can get a warm cider or hot chocolate or coffee and beaver tail right off the canal. What a great value proposition. And really, fundamental for any B2B sales effort should be a really great value proposition. And really, I think the big piece should be focusing on the benefits that your solution can provide to the organizations you're targeting. And like I said in the hot tips, really, you're talking about three main things: increasing revenue, decreasing cost or expense, making the organization more productive, and avoiding something bad. Those things are really what most organizations care about. If it's a not-for-profit, they may not be so concerned about revenue, growing revenue, but if they're a charity, that still might be important to them. So, those are really the key components to it. It's really important as well to try to quantify the benefit. Can you understand what kind of impact your organization can make to the customer? Just to give you an example, I had a new client, and they had some productivity solutions for not-for-profit organizations. And we worked with them to create a value prop, and they had some really great quantifiable benefits. They hit a lot of the points of the organization was really looking for. And we sent an email into this organization, and out of it, we're able to, just out of this one email, booked an opportunity with a meeting with the leadership team, not one person, but the whole leadership team of all the decision makers that would be involved in selecting my client's product. And that was having a really well articulated value proposition with some quantifiable benefits. So working and trying to get those through is really helpful and important. How many people are here for the go-to-market session? A few people. So if you weren't here, take a look. It's online. There's some really great things about how to pick path to market, including channel. So channel may be a good path to market. So not just going direct to your end user, but going through somebody that helps to support your end user. So that's something you should definitely take a look at. It also may be necessary to have multiple value propositions for an organization, because there may be different contacts within that organization that care about things in a different manner. So if I'm someone in finance, I maybe care about cost reduction more than someone that was in sales, where I maybe care about revenue more. So I would change the value proposition to suit the organization that I was, or the individual at the organization that I was targeting. The other thing as you're going through and creating your value proposition is understanding who your competitors are and how you're different than them, how you're better, but also maybe how you're not as good. Because you want to be able to understand maybe if somebody brings up company X, how you're going to be different, so you can articulate it to them. And it'll also help you pick the customers that you want to target. If you know that your competitors are particularly good servicing a certain part of the market, then maybe that's not a place in the market you want to start. You want to start in an area maybe where they're particularly weak to service. Has anybody here been curling before? We're stuck on really winter themes in Canada for the first part of the presentations. Has anybody not been curling before? Oh man. So again, curling is a great, this is like welcome to Canada and, or enjoy the rest of Canada. You got to get out curling sometime. But, curling is all about, getting the rock as close to the button as many as you can. And a big thing when you have a solution. So I talk to customers all the time and I say, who's your solution a best fit for? Everybody. I can tell you that when you start a business, it's really great. It's probably beneficial to focus on a niche or a vertical. It could be a horizontal. So is anyone here familiar with a company called FreshBooks? So FreshBooks really focuses almost on a horizontal. So instead of worried about what kind of business the organization has, it worries more about the size of the organization. Where a vertical will be focusing more on an industry segment. So, and you really want to match your solutions, your sales targets to who you think you can help the most, right? I worked with a client that had products. They were a software developer to start, and they had developed about 20 or 30 solutions that were a great fit for post-secondary institutions, which was great. But they'd probably sold each solution 1 or 2 times. There were 2 or 3 of the solutions that had a really great quantifiable benefit that were focusing on areas within the institution that were really interested in improving those areas and also had money. We helped them grow add 4 new clients, which represented about $200,000 in revenue. And since then, they've actually grown to be the largest company in Canada that does what they do. So they're actually in a majority of universities across Canada. And a big part of that is focusing on a certain solution, focusing on a certain type of vertical. So that's just an example. It's also important to focus on the best contacts within the organizations. If you're in sales, you're going to have, and you're trying to manage your business, or you're trying to grow as quickly as possible, you don't have time to waste. So focusing on the right customers and the right contacts within those organizations is a way to go faster and to learn more. And the way you think about who is the best contact to target is who would you focus on, who can get the most benefit, the title, the part of the business that gets the most benefit from your solution. And there could be a couple. If you have a solution that helps reduce cost, maybe a business unit leader would be interested, as well as the finance department. So you might want to target both if it's a larger organization. And one of the other tips we always recommend is trying to call as high as possible. So try to call the ultimate decision maker, because it will speed up the process. You'll fail faster, but you'll also learn more, and you'll also have the opportunity to, if that individual is interested, you may work with other people inside the organization, but it will definitely allow you to understand what's important for the decisions to get made. Has anybody heard of the term sales funnel? A couple people? Yeah. Sales funnel is a really important part of the processes around your startup and your growing company. The key to getting started with a sales funnel that spits out sales and sales and sales out of the bottom is understanding the steps that are a part of your sales process. And why is that important? What happens the way through and after, and who does it on your team is really important to being successful. So this is a funnel, and it's also different steps in the path to sales success. The first step is prospecting. So this could be people that organizations you've identified that may be of interest or potentially good fit for your organization, so you'd maybe want to focus on. This also can be, was anyone here from Mark Evans' presentation on communications? So it could also be marketing could be filling the top of your funnel, right, with prospects or leads. Qualifying is understanding if your solution and your prospect is a good fit, right? It really needs to be a good fit on both parts for it to be successful. If it's a really great fit for you but not for the customer, even if you're moving things forward, probably eventually it will stop, right? So understanding if it's a good fit for both and beneficial for both is a key to a good relationship. So once you've kind of qualified, understand it's a good fit, then you go to proposing. So now I'm demoing, I'm presenting, I'm doing proposals, all the things that are necessary to move that farther along. And the next step is closing, which is basically the customer has said to you, yes, I would like to buy, I would like to use your service. And but again, it's not closed. It's not ultimately closed until you actually get a signed document back or they've paid for it. And that's kind of the rollout. And as I mentioned in the video, the segment that we don't like to talk about, but it's often one of the most useful, is when you lose. You can go back and take a look at why you weren't successful, what kind of things you would have done differently next time. So typically losing is a great learning opportunity. Not often when you win, you go and ask the customer, hey, why did you pick us? You're often happy that they picked you and you're moving on to implementation. So you can learn more from a loss than you can from a win. Other couple important things that can help immensely with the sales process is setting activity targets. There are, as you go through the sales process, there are things that lead up to revenue. Revenue spits out the bottom of the funnel. There are things at the top. Things could be making calls, going to networking meetings, doing proposals, doing demos. All these things are activities that help to drive to the sale. So it's good to have targets on your revenue, but it's also good to have targets on activities. So you can measure how you're doing before you potentially get revenue or as you're growing your revenue. One of the toughest things, and I had this question, did a presentation at Wilfrid Laurier. Any Golden Hawks in the crowd? Couple? Yeah, that's where I went to school. But did a presentation at Wilfrid Laurier, and they talked about, well, the worst thing about sales is rejection. How do you handle so much rejection? And I think part of how you handle these difficult situations is being prepared. And one of the ways you can be prepared is you can create a list of objections that you're going to face as part of the sales process. And what you can do is try to craft answers for those objections. It may sound, you may know what you think, oh, I know what they are. I think it's often good if you can format them, get them down, so you can get comfortable in using them. And then what you'll find is when you have more sales, you deal with more customers, you'll get more objections. Then you'll have more answers to those objections. But it's a great way if you're not used to sales to get ready for it, because that's usually the hardest thing is handling objections from people. It's good to have a few sales deliverables. Sometimes I think people think you need to have everything perfect before you go out and sell. I would go out and sell as soon as you can. Even if your solution isn't totally done yet, go out and talk to people, talk to potential customers, talk to potential prospects. You may not want to start with the A targets to start, but go and talk to people. But there's a few things you can do to make it, that can assist you as part of the sales effort. Creating a 2-page, kind of a back and front PDF, where you can print, if anyone prints anymore, but you could print, or you can also send as an email. A really effective thing. Again, focus on the benefits of the solution. Creating a presentation for a prospective customer. That's another great thing that you can focus on and get done and tweak along the way. What I would say is the first time you do a proposal, save it, of course, but also then start templating sections. It'll make it a lot easier for you to handle future proposals. And of course, make sure your website is always up to date. It reflects what your organization does. Today, it's really easy to update your website using a WordPress or whatever CMS you may be using. It's almost the first place people look after they hear about you or your organization. Does anybody here love using CRMs? No? Does anyone hate it with all their might? Yes. CRM it's kind of an acquired taste. It's like Guinness. It's an acquired taste. And just much like Guinness, it's essential. But I would say, the piece with a CRM is really for a sales organization. If you want to be successful, you really should have one. And again, it's not just to keep your contacts. We can say, oh, I do it in Outlook or I do it in Gmail. It's not just to keep your contacts, but it's to plan out it's to keep everything that's to do with that opportunity, with that organization. So you can put your accounts in there, you can do your contacts, activities, your opportunities, notes on the account. You can put your leads in and qualify them. And it's also, as you grow your organization, it's a great way to share that information. So, and there are lots of ones you can choose from. Salesforce.com is one that we recommend to a lot of our clients. There's Zoho, which is very similar, which is web-based, just like Salesforce.com. And for up to 3 users for Zoho, it's free. They all make it fairly easy you can port your information out if you want to move, but I think it's essential to get it in. And a lot of them have productivity tools like integrating with Gmail or Outlook. So there's a lot of great ways to do it. And there's also some additional marketing automation features that you can work in to these later. So get to probably the thing that people dislike the most about sales. And I read a lot of pieces from social media, people telling you that you should never need to pick up the phone and call somebody. They should come into you through the web, and they're going to be qualified, and you'll be run off your feet with sales. I can tell you that probably the best organizations today, even if they are based on that, did some cold calling, used some more traditional sales tactics. Because at the beginning, you're not going to have the traffic to your website to generate enough revenue to not have to do this. So I'm not saying you have to, but you may have to. And I think there's a way that you can get prepared to do it and make it easier on yourself. So one of the things is, if you're making cold calls and you hate doing it, schedule it in your calendar. Don't save it to the end of the day. Oh, I'll get to it. Oh, I was too busy today, and now it's after 6, and all the customers have gone home. Schedule it in your calendar. If you're calling C-level people, the best times to call them are probably just after 8 in the morning till about 9:30, and then again probably after 4 o'clock up to 6. Why is that? Because their gatekeeper has gone home or not there yet. They also, if it's in the morning, they may not have a lot of fires to put out. It's the end of the day, they maybe got those things accomplished. So those are typically some of the best times to call and get a hold of somebody. Part of what you also want to look at what your goal is for that call. If you're selling maybe a very low dollar value item, you want to. I talked to an organization recently, and their solution sells probably for $100 to $200 a month, kind of top end. And so for them to go through a very long sales process doesn't work out very well. So their goal off a call is to get them to sign up for a free demo. That's kind of their goal of the call. If you're if your solution is more complicated and you need some more time to sell, maybe your goal for that call isn't to sell them on a demo. It's to sell them on scheduling some time to have a conversation with you. The goal of a cold call or a warm call, if you've got the planning in place, isn't always to sell them the solution. It's to sell them on a next step in the process, right? So sometimes I think people think, I have to sell this person on the phone. If you're selling a $100,000 item, they're probably not going to buy from you over the phone. Even if they're buying a $5,000 item, if you pick them out of the blue, they probably want to understand a little bit more about your organization and have some time to talk. And one of the ways you can be prepared and be successful with those type of calls is to do research. Research on the company and research also on the individual that you're contacting. You want to make sure you're calling the right person. If you have a solution that can help the marketing department, probably best not to call the finance department. They're not going to be too interested. You're going to be wasting their time. So focus on the individuals within those organizations that are going to help you move farther along. Again, we talked about having the right message. There's lots of great. So I've got one of our new clients. They turn wasted beer, which is a sin, I know, wasted beer and alcohol and juice, and they turn it into ethanol. And there's a lot of green components of that, right, in terms of waste. There's also some process improvements. So if I look at an organization that I'm targeting, and I see they have a very green message on their website, I'm going to include that in my conversation with them, right? So I know that they're going to be interested in it. We talked about preparing for objections. And again, start out your day with a few calls. If it's the thing you hate the most, it's like ripping off that Band-Aid. Start for it and get going. And I would say the more you do it, the more comfortable you get. And having your objections outlined and ready so that you can handle them will make it much easier for you to go and do that. And understand, you may have to call 20 people to have one person pick up the phone. But then you've got some time to talk with that individual. And I can tell you that as your company grows, you may not need to do cold calls anymore. My company, we do a lot of work on marketing and networking, and we hardly do cold calls on our own behalf anymore. So how many people here are on LinkedIn? Yes, everybody. If you're not on LinkedIn and you're starting a business, especially a technology business, shame on you. Definitely, it's if you're going to be on one social network for starting your business and you're selling a B2B product, LinkedIn is the best bang for your buck. Absolutely. And some of the ways that you can get ready for LinkedIn, or do as well as you can on LinkedIn, is have a complete profile. Don't, have a picture up there. Have the section about your product filled in. Make sure there's links to your website. Make sure your contact information is on there so they can get in touch with you. Make it easier for people to find you. Go check your privacy settings. If your privacy settings are set up so that you're not visible to people that aren't connected to you, it's harder to find new connections. Connect after different engagements. If you go to a meeting and you meet someone that night, take the business card out, send them a LinkedIn invitation. If you have a meeting with somebody, send them a LinkedIn invitation afterwards. I would do it right away. People are on LinkedIn to be in business. I typically only connect to people that I know, because I think the power of LinkedIn is using it to make additional connections. The best thing about LinkedIn, I think, is second connections. So those are people that are linked to someone you're connected to. And why is that? Say you land a great new customer and you've got this wonderful relationship with them, and things are going great. And then you notice when you're doing your research that the CFO from the company you're targeting is linked in to a CFO, of a company you want to get to, versus, and so if you have a great relationship, ask for an introduction, right? What a great way to get in faster at a higher level, right? And again, if you've done a great job, if you have good relationships, make that introduction. Again, people are there on LinkedIn to be in business. So asking for introductions, and if they don't worry about it. Try it again, right? It doesn't work all the time. And another feature that's quite good is sending emails. Again, you want to be, which is allowing you to send to somebody that you're not directly connected with. Again, you want to use it where it makes sense. And for me, I would say 90% of the time, I have the free version of LinkedIn. You can do a lot with the free version. You don't need to spend a lot of money. Hopefully, if there's someone from LinkedIn in the crowd, I apologize. It's a great tool, and I currently have the higher level version, but you don't have to get a lot of benefit out of it. You can get more benefit out of paying for it, but as you're growing your business, at least try the free version. Get up and get using it. Anyone here on Twitter? Yes. I love Twitter. I love Twitter for a few reasons. I love Toronto FC. Does anyone here love Toronto FC? Yes, you're brave people to acknowledge it, and I'm brave here on stage too as well. But Toronto FC is my soccer club in Toronto. They're horrible, but it's a really fun time, and I'm always hopeful. So you're asking, where the heck is he going with this? So that's one of the reasons I love Twitter, is because I can do lots of things of really niche focus. And one of the best parts of Twitter is the ability to connect with different individuals. And whatever you put on Twitter, as long as you understand, whatever you put on Twitter, everybody is going to see. It's like whatever your conversation is going on a bulletin board. Then you'll have no issues. And just embrace that it's open and it's available, and people will communicate with it. If you're on Twitter, I would suggest using a tool like Hootsuite, which is a great way to manage your feeds. You can schedule tweets so people can see different things that you're going on during your day in terms of, so what kind of things do I tweet? I tweeted that I was going to be here today. I tweeted, recently I tweeted about Toronto FC, but a lot of it's about, here's an event at the Innovation Factory in Hamilton. Here is a great article that I've read about cold calls. There are lots of ways to share information, build a following, and a great way to connect with people. And one of the things I really like about Twitter is creating lists. You can create lists of really great third-party sources for content. You can also create lists of prospects. So you can have those up, and you can be looking at the things that they're working on. Maybe here's a perfect example. So this is an actual Twitter conversation I had with Air Canada. I saw a tweet to Air Canada that basically said anybody could join their top tier, follow their top tier Twitter. So I sent a tweet into them and said, hey, if there's a solution that could help you, fix that, would you be interested? They said, yes, we may be interested. And I said, well, can I send an email and find out more? And they sent me a direct message with an email. And so now with this client that I'm working with, we're having a conversation with Air Canada about some social media, right? So again, it's just another method. Some people will communicate back, some won't. But in sales, you can't be bashful, you can't be shy. I don't want to ping them 20 times in an hour, ask them to get back to me, but I'm gonna send a message or two and see what the response is. What do you have to lose? Some other sales tactics, and I think this chart is, I wouldn't say it's 100% true, but it says, our study concludes that this is the percentage of our customers who will buy from us without any effort on our part whatsoever, 0%. And I think, when you're starting a startup, especially a technology startup, and you get so excited about the solution and what it can do, that it's really hard to understand that other people aren't going to be as excited as you right off the hop, right? You need to do things early. You need to meet people, connect with them, and get people to try your product, get people to listen to your sales pitch, get people to demo your solution. And if you don't, then your business may only last a little while. So you need to do these things, and they may not be fun or they may be uncomfortable, but that's the kind of things you need to do. There's lots of great free tools to do research with. Social media, LinkedIn and Twitter are great ways to get research on organizations and on people. Using the web, there's a solution called Jigsaw. It's also been renamed. It's been bought by Salesforce.com, and it's called Data.com. But it's a database full of contacts and emails that's open source. So again, it's places you can go find information on the people you're targeting. I like to send a targeted email to a new prospect, as I find a lot of people like to deal with email these days, so they have an opportunity to email me back. I'll also then follow up. Typically, I'll follow up with a telephone call. Sometimes, if I see they're very active on Twitter and replying to people, so sometimes I'll send them a tweet. Sometimes I'll message them with LinkedIn. It really depends. Networking session. So a session like this is great because the speaker's awesome. You're learning great things. And you can interact with some other people that are in the same boat as yourself. But I think as a startup, sometimes you like to go where other startups are. You don't always like to go where your customers are. And so one of the things you want to do is look for opportunities to network with prospective customers and partners, right? So look for those opportunities. Don't just look where the same people as you are. Look for those opportunities where there may be other people. Inbound leads. So again, if you have a good website and you've got some social media presence, and you're doing some inbound marketing, maybe you do some blogging. Again, you don't need to do a lot. Do some to start, but to be consistent. Those things can help bring leads to you. But again, unless you've got a real marketing machine generating leads, it's going to be difficult. And again, if your focus is really geared at small, medium business, you're not going to be able to support outbound sales and inside sales doing cold calls for very long. But you might do it at the beginning, and then later you might be having your marketing automation might kick in and be filling the funnel. But as you get your first few clients, you may need to do things that are a little bit different to get them on board. I know this looks a bit facetious, but I've actually been in meetings where I've had clients presenting, or I've been to meetings where I've seen people present, and the people there, eyes gloss over because they're not really connecting with what you're talking about. And I think part of what people in sales, and we had a conversation even before with someone about the best people that are in sales are extroverts. And I don't always believe that the best people in sales are extroverts, because a big part of sales is actually listening. I want to listen. I want to understand what the pain my customer is experiencing, and then I want to put things in place that can help them. And you only find out that pain and what's going on by asking questions. So when I have a meeting with a client, it could be a meeting, it could be a demo, I'm going to ask a few questions before. I'm going to understand the situation they're in. Even if I have a pretty good idea of something, I may confirm an assumption. Because what that'll do is if there's 10 features of my solution that can help an organization, and I find out that 4 of them really would help this organization, I'm going to focus on those 4. I'm not going to start with the 6 they don't really want. I'm going to focus on the ones that are most important to them. I would suggest if you're going to go to a meeting, ahead of time, you prepare an agenda for the meeting. And agenda can be very simple. It's an introduction. I want to ask my prospect some questions. I want to then review my solution. Maybe there's some other things. Hey, I want to do the demo at this point. Hey, we want to ask this person about something specific. Create an agenda for yourself, and that way you can make sure you stay on track. The other thing you want to have planned out before you go to the meeting, it says, who am I meeting with? Yes, I know who I'm meeting with this person. Have you researched them? Have you looked them up on LinkedIn? Where have they worked before? Have they worked at any other places where you know somebody? Have you worked at the same place? Who knows, right? There could be other things that you can share as part of that conversation. What kind of things show up on their, what kind of jobs have they been in? You can get that research from something like things. So not just knowing who they are, but try to understand what they may be caring about as you go through the meeting. You also want to talk about what are they hoping to get out of the meeting. So you probably have an idea of what you want to get out of the meeting, but what do they want to get out of the meeting? Why are they meeting with you? I want to make sure I satisfy those needs on their part as well. If you don't, they'll tune out, right? And you also want to, ahead of time, you want to know what you're hoping to get out of the meeting in terms of your goals. And also, I think the most important part of the meeting are the next steps. And I've talked to some different people in the tech community before. Hey, you had that meeting? How'd it go? Great, we've got another meeting scheduled. What's that meeting about? Not sure. Or they get back and say, we had an awesome demo. Okay, so what's the next step? Oh, we don't have one. They're going to get back to us at some point. So I think you want to do in the meeting is you want to have an idea of what you think are maybe some good next steps. And then it's also okay to ask the customer, what would you like to see from us next? How do you feel about what we've presented? And get some commitment from them about what the next step is. Yes, I'm interested, I need you to connect you with this other person internally. Okay, they've committed to that in the meeting, so I'm going to follow up with them on it, right? Don't assume that your solution is the most important part of that person's job, right? So you're going to maybe need to follow up a few times. We just closed a deal with one of our clients that was in our funnel for almost 500 days. And since September, they've said, yes, we'll sign the agreement. And they signed it yesterday. So that's not that they didn't think it was an important solution. It just they had other things that were more important. So we followed up on a weekly, bi-weekly basis to get that sorted out, right? So that's what's necessary. So I like to finish on this slide. I think almost for every presentation that I do, it changes depending on the audience. But I think if you're a startup right now in Ontario, there's probably more startups in Ontario right now than there ever been in the history of Upper Canada. And I think there's a lot of great resources that are available to startups. And I think Mars is a big part of that. It's a testament to these series. Also, the Mars website has a lot of great information in the Entrepreneur's Toolkit, as well as videos of past lectures and everything else. So it's a great source. If anybody here is anybody here from close to Waterloo? A couple people. So there's some really great. Communitech is an excellent organization. It's very cost effective to join if you're in that area, and they have some really great peer-to-peer groups. And there's a senior sales peer-to-peer that I'm part of. They have junior sales. They've got 3 marketing, and I think they have about 40 peer-to-peer groups. It's a really great opportunity. If anyone here is towards Hamilton or online, there's Innovation Factory as well has a peer-to-peer group, but actually is scheduled for, and sales, it's scheduled for Wednesday of next week. And again, it's a great time. There's going to be a presentation on using social media as part of the sales process. There's also going to be a networking component to it. So again, it's a great opportunity. There's some really great sites like Profit, which is a Canadian-based website and magazine. But but I don't get too many magazines anymore. But I have lots of great sales and marketing information up, and it's from a Canadian perspective. There's also a couple US ones. Inc. and Entrepreneur have a lot of great information up on their site. There's a couple, yoursalesplaybook.com and the Sales Blog are really great blogs that I follow on a regular basis. And I have lots of really great information. I would check them out. There's a Mars LinkedIn group, and there's also one LinkedIn group that we have to work with called Sales and Marketing for Canadian Startups. So it's has some information on events and different information on sales and marketing. And probably my favorite, if you're just getting into sales, really easy to read sales books, is How to Be a Rainmaker. It's just full of short little stories and tips that will help you in your sales effort, and I recommend it highly. There's a great piece about making sales calls on Friday. It's actually one of the best times, because while your competitors aren't doing it, the people that are leaders at organizations are working to the end of the day Friday. And even sales in the summer, there are lots of people that work in the summer, and it's great if they're not in. You know when they're back from vacation because it's on their voicemail or on their email. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Venture Accelerator Partners. We have several white papers up on our site, things like how to use LinkedIn and Twitter. We have a hiring a sales team, a white paper. We do blogs twice a week. We have a newsletter highlighting some different blogs and things we're reading. So yeah, take a look. We've got lots of free resources that are up there that you can share. So with that, we'll open it up, I guess, for questions. And don't be bashful, because it's kind of like practice for sales, right?
Okay, fantastic presentation, first of all. Thank you so much.
Oh, thanks.
I'm not sure, to me, I felt like there was kind of a gap because you covered Twitter and LinkedIn.
Yeah.
But I'm under the impression that capturing people's attention in their inbox and holding a email relationship with them is really important. So there's services like Aweber and MailChimp and stuff like that for newsletters. You said you had a newsletter? Yes,
we use Constant Contact, but I would use MailChimp or Constant Contact are really great tools that you can use. And yeah, you can, I would say you want to be careful about putting people on an email newsletter without their permission. But having a sign up on your website is key. Seeing the activities that generate from it are awesome. So yeah, I would say email marketing is still really important for growing firms. So I would say use it, yeah.
Thanks so much.
Good point.
Again, I'll say a great presentation. You covered a lot in a very short time, so thank you.
Sure.
I just add a few things. You said it very quickly. I never underestimate the benefit of role-playing with live creatures, whether it's your husband, your kids, or your pets. So that's very important in preparing. And there goes as much preparation time into talking to a doctor for 2 minutes as doing a presentation for 2 hours. You still have to go through that whole step. There's a lot of talk about social media and all the electronics that are used now. How much of that is taking away from the hands-on, face-to-face work that's going on?
Well, I think one of the things you want to take a look at is, I think one of the dynamics is you need to step away from how you like to receive information and have a relationship as part of the decision-making process, and think about how your customers or prospects do. So sometimes people are going to want to have that face-to-face, interaction, and sometimes people will buy a $75,000, $100,000 solution because you're dealing with people over the phone and with the webinar and never have met them. So again, it really depends on the organization. If you're selling a $100 item, you're probably not going to be able to go meet with everybody that you want to sell to, right? So it really depends on how they want to receive information and what's the best fit. I would say too, if you say, oh, LinkedIn, if you have forget if you like to use LinkedIn, forget if you like to use Facebook. Again, it's not Facebook. If your customers and prospects and partners are on there, you should be on there. Just get over it and get onto it. So good question.
I'm going to take, sorry, Mark, I'm going to
Sure.
take one from the webcast. This is from Heather. You suggested just starting, but not with your A-list prospects. So what is a safe way to practice selling?
Yeah, that's a great question. One of the ways, again, one of the benefits of LinkedIn is you may want to go to some friendly people first, right? That you can meet with the right type of target, have a conversation. If they're not interested in buying, or you don't have to have the value proposition perfect to get in and see them. And then you can learn a lot by talking to them. So that may be a great way to go. I think some of the organizations, if you want to focus on kind of the best absolute fit for your solution, that's maybe not the best place to go the first time. You want to get the message down. So start with so just figure out maybe some of the ones that are a tier below what you'd like to focus on, and see if you can find some friendly accounts to go and talk to. Good question.
Hey, Mark, thanks for the presentation. So I just have an interesting idea. Would like hear your suggestions. So I find out USA, most of the companies, startup company, it had to do some cold calls. And I think about this, and I think it's really hard to make a cold call unless you just flipping through all the business phone book and try to call everyone. Because the chance of what I find out is it's really hard to see what kind of customer will buy your product.
Yeah.
Is it possible you suggest for a startup company to outsource their sales team to individual starters to at least pass the the first pipeline, the filter, and then once they qualify, and then you can go with them to get the nail down first or second deal, and later on.
The challenge in that is like if you're it'd be like outsourcing some of your development. So I'm not saying don't outsource part of the sales effort, don't outsource the total sales effort. And I think you will understand your solution better than anybody else. So you can work with maybe work with an outside person to help define, again, what are the benefits your solution provides? And then where's the best fit for those? So I work with a company that develops applications for Twitter and Facebook. Guess what? Industrial companies are not the first target, right? So you want to look for where you think is the best fit, and I would say, and then if you can find some friendly accounts people to go talk to about it, go do it. But you need to kind of have some of that figured out even before you bring somebody in, or they can be part of that process to help you determine it. But you really have to have a strategy before you go out, because you'll just burn through cycles, not knowing. And I think as an entrepreneur, you want to stay connected to the sales effort because it's a great learning opportunity about the product. About what's going on. So, I don't think you should outsource the whole thing. You should be involved with that sales process. Good question.
Thanks.
A couple of hints, I hope, and a plea. I'd like your opinion on the hints. If you're making cold calls, if you treat it as a research project, in other words, success is getting some information back from the customer, that makes it less painful.
Yes.
You're more likely to get a response if you smile before you start talking. Strange as it sounds, it appears it affects the voice over the phone.
Yes.
And the plea, make sure that if you send mail out, that it works in text. Some of us, for security, strip HTML. And if I get a garbled response, the only thing you're going to get back from me is boilerplate abuse. Make sure that it works in text. Some of the most irritating ones are if this does not work, click here to see the online version. And the click here has been put as an encrypted or as a concealed entry and therefore gets deleted. So I can't click to see what it was actually about.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, so I think good comments there about not every end user is the same. And making it easy for people to get a hold of you, and don't make, again, I would focus more on the benefits and value proposition than I would making the email look very pretty, in my opinion.
I guess my question follows in the similar vein as that gentleman's. What are sort of the turnoffs to avoid when you're trying to bring a customer down the sales funnel?
Well, I think
the obvious.
Yeah, well, I'd say there's lots of them, but I think one of the things is not listening, right? So you're not listening to what the customer's asking for. You're not validating what if your solution matches to what their pain is, their benefit is. I think that's a big one. I think what you put yourself in the customer's shoes is important. You want. I think the part of sales is, to me, the definition of sales is basically selling, definition of sales is the customer does something they wouldn't normally have done without your involvement. It's kind of like that chart we had up. So you still might need to follow up, but don't call them, 20 times a day. They're busy people, right? So send an email, give them some time to respond, follow up with a telephone call. So, be diligent and listen.
Thank you.
Sure.
My question is, how do you reach an older audience that is not really very, very familiar with the kinds of things that you're
Yeah.
talking about? They do use emails,
Yeah.
and they're comfortable with that. But beyond that,
Yeah.
it's really, I find that it doesn't work that well. So what do you do?
Yeah, so I think the thing what you need to do is, again, understand your customers, right? So if the demographic is maybe you're dealing with an older, or we have some companies that are industrial companies. So guess what? Social media isn't the first option with them. We're not setting up Twitter accounts for them. We're not setting up Facebook. And we might do some more traditional marketing. It might be some more networking. It might be more cold calls. It might be direct mail pieces that are actually mail and not email. So again, look at the demographics of your customer you're trying to get to and try some different methods. And it could be more traditional marketing and more traditional sales efforts that are needed.
So just go back to sort of the more old-fashioned one. What about trying to reach them through relatives? Say, kids, or is that a
Yeah,
an
I would say
option that works?
if it's a consumer sale, I'm looking more from a business to business perspective. So for consumer, there may be some other ways to definitely reach them. From a business to business, I don't know if going through relatives is maybe the best way unless they're part of the business. But
Okay, thank
good.
you.
Thank you.
This is coming from Gareth. What are some good ways to disarm a prospect who may get a lot of sales calls?
That's a good question. So to disarm a prospect who may get a lot of sales calls, one of the things I like to do is I like to send an email first. I want to make it linked to the organization. So I want to refer to the organization, refer to maybe some pain I think they're having that I can tell from their website or knowing about the organization. I want to, I'll then send that and I'll then follow up with a telephone call. I'll maybe try at different times. And again, I want to be concise and I want to lead with the value that I'm going to bring to that individual.
And one more from Marianne. This is a very specific question. So if you have a product, it's the type of product that you are going to tailor to your client, and you're targeting a large company that receives numerous amounts of pitches. What's the best way to present your product so that it doesn't look like a half-baked idea?
Well, again, I think part of it is focusing on benefits. And I think Mark Evans also talked about telling a story, right? So you can tell a story about how your solution helps people. And people love stories, right? And great salespeople have great stories. So I would try to focus on that. I would focus on benefits. Maybe focus on where you've done it before. I know when you're starting out, sometimes it's hard to say, here's where I've done it before. But if you have some success, it helps to validate, that you've done this for another similar organization.
Just while Jackie's approaching the microphone, one from Naveed, and I've run into this problem before as well. If you've checked on LinkedIn, you've looked on the website, you don't know who the right person is. How can you get the contact information for the person that you're trying to cold call?
Call reception. Yeah, it's like kind of the last chance to try. And I would also say too, you probably have other targets you can focus on. But last thing is a call reception and ask for the person that handles what you're looking for, or the VP of whatever. That's kind of the best way. It's like the last step in the cycle there. Yes.
Hi, Mark. So are there any good ways to warm up a cold call? Because when it's completely cold, people might hang up on you.
Yeah?
Apart from sending them an email, because it did happen to me quite a few times that
Yeah.
if I don't know that person, my email may end up in the spam folder.
Yeah,
Even some email that I got from Mars end up in my spam folder.
Yes. So in terms of warming up a cold call, so you can send an email, you can do the research ahead of time, so you know you're focusing on the right person, the right business. And I would also say too is ask for an introduction. If you have somebody that that works at that organization that can put you in touch with this person, ask for an introduction and try it that way. And then as long as you have a good relationship with that connection, that's a great way to get over that initial coldness, right? Because you're getting a referral in from somebody. So I think that's the biggest benefit of LinkedIn, and that's why for me I think I want to connect with people that I know, so that I can help them and they can help me, and not just people that I don't know. So that's one of the ways. There may be no way other than trying to do a cold call, but I also think there's other opportunities like try Twitter, try LinkedIn, go to a networking event where you know that individual is going to be at, or someone from that company. Yes.
I know there's a lot of sort of electronic ways to contact people, but if you need to go in and there's no soliciting and they don't have emails, do you have any suggestions of how to contact them?
No soliciting and no emails. Again, I would look for some industry events. Maybe they're at, somebody there from the organization's at. Again, do you know anybody that's at that organization that can tell you the right person to talk to? I would say too, if at the beginning, if you have 40 or 50 targets that are easy to get in touch with, contact them. Unless it's like the ultimate customer, move on to somebody else. Go as fast as you can. And then if you identify this is an organization I definitely want to get in touch with, then just think about some different ways to do it. So I don't. It's not like hey, here's the answer. But good question.
When you're creating your value proposition or any part of your sales marketing tools, and you want to get beyond I save them money and get down to how you really differentiate yourself, are there any good questions to ask yourself how to figure out how to say that in a different way? I think it happens every time you're trying to make a pitch.
So your challenge is your competitors can all save them money too. You can all kind of do the same thing.
Yeah. So how do you really differentiate yourself when you have maybe a slightly different service, but at the end of the day, you're offering the same thing?
Yeah, so again, that's why I think it's good to focus on vertical or niche, because you can get So again, if you're the same as everybody else, so is it customer service? Really hard to prove, right? So how do you? So then you can maybe it's about references, or then it's great to get connections in, right? So if you've got the service the same as everybody else, look for anything that's different that you can articulate. But then this is also a good reason where you can focus on a certain vertical or niche, because then what you have is you have knowledge of that vertical. You can mention processes or things that the other people can't. Or maybe it's horizontal. So like FreshBooks, they understand about invoicing and getting paid and finance as it pertains to small business and as it pertains to solopreneurs as an example. So they know that space really well, right? So it's different than a Quicken or Sage, right? So so it depends on find something area that you can be successful at, and maybe exploit, and then grow from there, right? That's maybe the best way to do. If it's a Me Too product, there's not a ton of levers. The last lever is always price, and that's not a winning long-term strategy.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah.
We're almost out of time, so we'll just take one more question.
Okay. Thanks for the presentation. I'm in a bit of a dilemma because with the lean startup approach, there's this kind of idea of engage early and engage often with the customer.
Yep.
So there's a kind of strategic partner that I really want to approach, and I know how to do it, but somewhere in my mind I have the feeling that if it doesn't go right the first time, I've spoiled it. So my question to you is, if you engage with a prospective customer or partner, and they aren't immediately receptive that first time, have you spoiled your chance, or is it okay to approach them again?
I would say it's probably okay to go back, especially if you're dealing with another technology firm. I don't know if that's who your customer or partner is, because they were a small company at one point too, right? So I find that technology firms have a little more patience for other technology firms. So I think if you think it's a really good opportunity, for both parties, then I would go have that conversation. And they may say, you know what, interested in what you're talking about, but it's not a good time yet. Come back in a year. But at least you've had that conversation. I think the piece of, sitting and waiting for the right time to go sell, the right time is as soon as your product is viable, or when you know it's going to be viable very quickly. Go out and talk and get it out and get people using it. Waiting till it's perfect is you're going to run out of money, you're going to run out of time. Go and start selling it. And if you provide good customer service and your product works eventually, people are going to remain to be your customers. A few customers are going to be upset. But what's the alternative is you not being successful. So,